Hey, thank you for watching this week. This whole month I'm talking about it's warm-up time. What does that mean? That means it's preparation time. It's time to get ready for the next thing that God has for you. It's time to get ready to move up higher, to do something different. When I travel all over the world, different churches, it doesn't matter if it's a small church, if it's thousands of people, if it's in France, or if it's in Crowley, Texas. I ask people the same question. I say, how many of you don't want to be where you're at today, next year at this time? And I would say close to 100% of the people raise their hands, including me. Most of us don't want to be dealing with what we're dealing with right now, whether it's an area of finances, relationship with God, a marriage situation, your weight, your house, whatever it is. We all want to have something different in our lives. But the question is, what actions are you taking this year to be different than last year? Or what actions are you taking this month to be different than last month? Because in order to have something different, we got to be willing to do something different, right? Well, the Lord told me one time in my prayer time, I was just listening for Him, and He said, it's warm-up time. I didn't know what that meant, but I knew it's got to mean something about getting ready, preparing, being prepared for whatever it is God has for me. Well, I want you to know the same thing. It's warm-up time. It's time for you to do something different so you can get a different result. You have to just ask yourself, what is it that God's dealing with you about? What is it? And you might say, well, God doesn't speak to me. Well, God speaks to you through different ways. There's times when you just know it's time to make a change in your weight, in your fitness. You need to start eating better. You need to start exercising. It doesn't mean that God audibly told you that. You just know. Or in your finances. Maybe you just know, I've got to start saving money. I have not been saving money for the past 3 years. I've got to start saving money. Doesn't mean that God showed up in your house and told you. You just know inside God's dealing with you about making some changes in your life. Well, you have to do something different, right? I was listening to something the other day, and it said the habits you currently have are only good enough to get you what you've currently got. Think about that. The habits you currently have are only good enough to get you what you've currently got. If you want change in any area of your life, change your habits. I only know how to minister and teach from experience. My life did not change until my habits changed. And that's why I call my magazine The Routine, because I had to start changing something about my daily routine in order for my life to change. I like what John Maxwell says. If you want to see change in your life, change something you do daily. He didn't say change something you do yearly or change something you do every 6 months. He said if you want to see change in your life, change something you do daily. Well, that's the whole reason I call my magazine The Routine, because I had to start changing something about my daily routine. I had to change something about the way I was just approaching every month of my life. And this month I'm talking about warming up. And one of the ways that you warm up or you prepare for what God has for you is in the area of setting goals. That you need to set goals for yourself, because goals stretch you. They cause you to come up higher, to be in a different place than you were at last month. I've studied so many different things about goals and studied from successful people, and they've even done research that people who set goals for themselves earn 9 times as much as those who don't. All because they just set goals. They stretch themselves. When you set a goal, it already causes you to be a little more successful, because it proves that you've got an aim towards something. You're not satisfied where you are. You're reaching for something more. Let me just share with you real quick 4 quick tips that I've practiced in my life on how to set goals. Number 1 is that goals must be in writing. Goals must be in writing. Now this comes straight from the Bible. Habakkuk 2:2 tells us, write the vision, make it plain on paper. Why? So you can run when you read it. Written goals proves you're serious. It proves you're committed. In fact, I read one quote that said, thinking you can keep your goals in your head is just an excuse for not writing them down. So you might say, well, I don't want to write it down. I know what my goals are. Don't just think it, ink it. You got to write your goals. Get them in writing. Number 2 is goals must be measurable. There's a big difference in saying, I will pay more on my Visa card. And you write that goal down. There's a big difference in saying that or saying, I will pay an extra $100 every month for the next 12 months on my Visa card. That's a measurable goal. You are determined to pay $1,200 over the course of a year on that debt, on that credit card. So your goals have to be measured by something. Don't just say, I want to lose weight and write that down. No, I will weigh 110 pounds by September 1st, whatever your goal is. That's measurable. Number 3, goals must be realistic. You know, if your goals are completely unrealistic, then you're just setting yourself up for defeat. If your goal is, to draw closer to God, and you determine, how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to start studying His Word. I'm going to make myself start reading the Bible. Now, if you set a goal and you say, this month I'm going to read the Old Testament, the whole Old Testament, but you can only commit to maybe 10 minutes a day to have reading time, then that's an unrealistic goal. The Old Testament's pretty thick. So you have to set a realistic goal and say, you know what, I'm going to focus on the New Testament, on the book of Romans. I'm going to read the book of Romans this month. I'm going to set aside 10 minutes every night to just read the book of Romans or on my lunch break. But make sure your goal is realistic, or else you're just setting yourself up for defeat. You'll get mad and you'll just give up on the whole goal. Number 4, I speak from experience. Number 4, goals must have a deadline. It's amazing how a deadline can cause you to work much harder and be more motivated. I mean, even when I was a little girl, me and my sister would be told, unload the dishwasher. We'd look at the clock and say, let's do it in 4 minutes or less. And, that deadline made us work harder. Well, anytime you set a goal, set a deadline. You should always ask yourself, how much and by when? You want to save a certain amount of money? How much? By when? You want to read a certain amount of the Word of God? How much? By when? You want to lose weight? How much? By when? These are just 4 quick tips that I've applied in my life to help me set goals. And before I enter a new month, I always set goals in different areas of my life. And I'm telling you, it causes me to stretch, to grow, to warm up, and to be prepared for the next thing God has. So, when you're through changing, you're through. You have to constantly be educating yourself, stretching yourself, and setting new goals for yourself. This month I'm offering Picture Your Dreams and Goals. And this will help you because it's much more in depth than what I could share right now. But it'll help you learn how to set effective goals for yourself so that next year at this time, you're not at the place you're at today. So thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you next week.